Welcome. You are ready to expand your skills. So you're going to move from all that work you've been doing on distractions and gaining your focus and clarity and changing your words to applying them more directly, not just to yourself, but to other people. Here we go.
First, I want to talk about your focus, which is just a positive way of saying eliminating distractions. You have accomplished this so far, from what I can tell, by physically removing the objects from your path or removing yourself from distraction. So you left your Blackberries somewhere else, or you turned your cell phones off, or you made a decision not to go on the computer. Self-control is a lot like that. You made a decision you would only check your email at certain times. Your self-talk has been probably the most freeing, because with your self-talk and your word choice, I can do this, or I will do this at this time, you are internally giving yourself the same cue as you are doing physically. You are saying, I trust that I will get back to that distracting thing at a more appropriate time. And as you continue to actually get back to that distracting thing and manage it, you will trust yourself even more, and the self-talk will work even better because you will believe yourself. And some of you have gone so far as to ask assistance of others, to tell them, I have this project. I must complete it by such and such time. Please help me by giving me an hour or 2 hours to myself, unless there's an emergency. All of these are working, from what I can see, pretty well for you, and I will be checking that next week. So now we're ready for the next level. Let's expand your focus. As you practice with your self-talk, and you've seen evidence of it from choosing from the negative phrase to the positive phrase, I want you to practice enjoying the time that you are spending with the one thing. Now that sounds kind of funny, especially if you are immediately conjuring images of a dreaded task that takes all your concentration. But you don't have to start there. You can start with something as simple as the drive to work. That's where I started. The drive to work. That time is going to pass whether I am frustrated and impatient and scared of all the things I have to do that aren't getting done and I'm going to be late, or whether I am thinking, this is nice to have the time to myself away from my children, to be quiet, to listen to what I want to listen to on the radio or my CD, to just enjoy the ride to work. Now what happens is when I arrive at work, I begin that work session with a very different attitude if I've chosen to appreciate my ride in, as opposed to feeling all the anxiety of being late. Still arrive at the same time, and perhaps I am late, but I'm in a very different place mentally, and I can address things differently mentally when I hit the door. So that will be a new challenge for you, something you can play with. That person cuts you off. You say, well, they're in a bigger hurry than I am to get to that red light. Reaction to events versus controlling events. I think that many of you feel that it will be necessary to control those around you and the events that are coming at you in order to have this kind of focus and peace of mind. Ideally, what you are reaching for is a feeling that everything is going to be okay. So if all the events were benign, then you would automatically feel that everything would be okay. But as life has its way of throwing curveballs at us, we have to choose to believe that everything is going to be okay. That's a lot like my trip in to work. If I am thinking positive thoughts the whole time and enjoying the ride, I feel differently than if I am worried about being late. this is the same concept, and we can apply it to many different aspects. As life shows up, we can choose to see it as neither evil nor good, just it is. And now I have something new to add to my list or new to address and to prioritize. We can focus on positive truths. Okay, now that sounds a little hokey pokey, but every truth, every situation, I should say, has more than one thing that's true about it. Every person has more than one thing that's true about it. So, let's take the example of I'm running late to work. It is true that I'm running late to work. It is also true that it's a beautiful sunny day today, or that there's a rainbow right there. So there are many truths happening at one time, and with my magical brain, I have the ability to choose which one I want to focus on. How does this play out? Well, let's say that you have something marvelous planned for Saturday morning. If you are a fisherman, you are going on the best fishing trip of your life with people you really enjoy and haven't seen in a while. You are excited about your trip. If you are not a fisherman, maybe you have a beautiful vacation planned for you, and you are going to a warm, sunny beach somewhere, and you are going with people you enjoy so much. And in both cases, you have to get up at 5:30 in the morning. Will you pop out of bed at 5:30? Maybe. You certainly will be a lot happier about getting ready and going to your special event, as opposed to having to get up at 5:30 to go to work. Same time, it's the same event, you're still having to get up and do what you do in the mornings to get ready, maybe even more if you're going on vacation, but you feel very differently about it. And it's all in how you are perceiving it and how you are anticipating it. So, I had an event happen with a new item that I wanted to share with you, and it came from a kind of unusual source. Someone had given me a book about autism. My son is, he has Asperger's. And although I found the book a little too late, my son's 10 now, I'd already been through much of this book and figured it out on my own. One of the items it gave me that I thought would be useful for all of us is to break tasks into small pieces, because autistic children tend to interrupt you a lot, and I do get frustrated. It seems as though I can't do any. In fact, I'm doing this before my children get home because it would be impossible otherwise. But I also tend to think of a task as a whole entity. I like to start and finish it. I like, for instance, the example they gave was doing the laundry. Instead of thinking of the laundry as the whole process, it advised that you think of it as collect the clothes from one room, and you've completed that task. Collect the clothes from another room, and you've completed that task. Put the clothes in the dryer. That's a task unto itself. Turn the dryer on, or washer. I guess we should wash them before we dry them. So put the soap in. That's a task unto itself. And turn the washer on. That's a task unto itself. And the reason they were suggesting that I break it up into these small chunks is that the odds of me being interrupted were great. And if I saw it as completed, if that one step was completed, I would be less likely to be frustrated and irritated with my son. And I thought, what a wonderful tool. I do that around the house, but do I do that at work? And is it okay to do that at work? And that brought to mind this word that came about in the early 90s of multitasking. All of our employers want us to multitask. And yet, I know my brain doesn't do things very well. When I try to do things simultaneously, they're only getting about 50% of my attention, and therefore I don't do as good of a job. We see this with people who are trying to drive and talk on the phone. And it depends on the phone conversation. If it's a pretty light phone conversation that doesn't require a lot of concentration, they drive just fine. Their attention's about 90% on the road and 10% on the conversation. But if their boyfriend is breaking up with them, or somebody has an emergency, or they're just really interested in the phone conversation, well, the first time I saw it, I thought they were drunk because they ran a red light. So our attention span can really only be diverted to one thing well at a time. We can only do one thing well at a time. But we might be able to get around this with the breaking of tasks, the completion of small steps in the process, so that we can easily switch from one thing to another. Something for you to chew on. I'll be interested to hear what you think.